Hey everybody, Mark and Steve with a special holiday offer. We know that the holidays can be tough when you're dealing with addiction and betrayal trauma healing. And we know that as tough as they are, they also bring hope. How many of you guys remember this time last year when you said, you know what, this next year, 2025 is going to be the last year.
Oh
We
man.
got this addiction. We're going to fix this relationship. We're going to get ourselves on track. And now here we are a year later. So make this the year 2026 that you finally get this crazy mess out of your lives, both addicts and partners in healing. So from December 15th, 2025 through January 31st, 2026, in addition to the 2-week free trial that we always do, we're going to give you another $150 off of your first month's subscription.
All you got to do, guys, is at checkout, enter the coupon code 150 off D2C, all caps, no spaces. Honestly, when it comes to promotions that we do throughout the year, this is by far the best one that we do. That means for you and your partner, if you do the math, that's 6 weeks total of the Dare to Connect program, okay? For less than $150. I don't care where you live in the United States or anywhere else. That is less than the cost of a single therapy session. If you really want to start 2026 off right, jump into Dare to Connect, go to daretoconnectnow.com, enter in that coupon code 150 off D2C, and we hope to see you there in 2026.
Hey everybody, I'm Steve Moore.
And I'm Mark Castleman.
We know the pain and heartbreak of porn and sex addiction.
And we know the triumph of breaking completely free.
Every day, we help our clients find hope and healing.
Join us in the fight to take back your life, your marriage, and be stronger than ever.
This is the PBSC Squared podcast.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 317. This is Mark Castleman and Steve Moore on the PBSE podcast. The title of this episode is From Shock to Self-Trust, Reclaiming Your Inner Truth After Betrayal.
Mm-hmm.
Now we've done a lot of podcasts about this general topic. Betrayed partners will write into us and ask, after describing their whole scenario, should I stay or should I go?
Yes.
If I decide to stay, what do boundaries look like? How will I ever know if this guy's actually in real recovery, or if he's still gaslighting and pulling the wool over my eyes? What does real recovery look like? We're not going to cover any of those topics today.
Yes.
You can go to our daretoconnectnow.com website, and at the top of that homepage on Dare to Connect Now, you'll see the PBSE podcast banner. You click on that and go into the PBSE podcast page and scroll down a little ways. You'll see a little see all. It'll pull up all the podcasts we've ever done, and there's a little magnifying glass search icon. And if you click on that, you can put in any kind of wording or titles you want, and it'll pull up all of our past 316 podcasts.
Yes.
But things like stay or go, ? Or what is real recovery, or what do boundaries look like? You'll see lots of podcasts on those topics.
Probably 1 or 2 dozen, I would say, on this on that exact dilemma. But yeah, this is definitely a different approach because we're not having that same discussion today. And hopefully that is evident from the title, right? This is all about you partners, and what does your side of this look like as far as your own authenticity, your own integrity, personal integrity, your own, the you side of this, not the relationship side, I guess is a good way to put it.
Yep. This is all about the you side. I like that. Well, I'm going to read real quick the submission that a partner sent us and why we felt impressed to do it from this angle. She says, my partner of almost 4 years admitted to being a porn addict 1 month ago. We had a dead bedroom situation our entire relationship, and I had always felt sexually unsatisfied in the relationship. For the first 3 years, he would say that he had, quote, a lot of sexual anxiety and that talking about it would make it worse. Plus, talking about it made me feel like I was pressuring him for sex, even though I wasn't, which made me feel icky anyway. The result was that we did not talk about it much. That being said, I did everything I could do to make him feel comfortable during this time. The last year of our relationship, I completely gave up. I wouldn't bring it up at all, and I completely stopped initiating. Eventually, last month, I decided to stop settling for crumbs sexually, and when I approached him about this, he finally confessed. And he confessed about his porn addiction. Shock is not even the word. My entire reality has been shattered. He even gave me specific instances of engaging with porn when I was around and how I was completely oblivious. He was a good partner. I saw him as a kind, compassionate, considerate man. I thought he was the person I was meant to be with forever. I've been struggling to find support because everyone talks about their porn addicted partners, also talk about how they were all a-holes and gaslighters, etc.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so horrified by his ability to live a double life. Right? She's saying he didn't fit all those descriptions. He's been a really great guy. So how in the world could he have this double life? I've done a lot of reading and listening to podcasts, and they all say that people in true recovery start showing up differently, and that you could, as a betrayed partner, you can just tell that they're in real recovery. I'm constantly taking space from him, but I do wonder what recovery would even look like for him. If he was already someone who seemed to be a good and communicative person, how would I even know if he is truly doing well? He could easily fake recovery. Everyone I talk to has said to leave since I am young and we're not yet married, and that staying with an addict would be the worst decision of my life. It's all hard and very complicated, and nobody understands. I don't even feel like my therapist has been that helpful. She just wants to talk about why I stayed with him so long and what that means. But I don't think there is any deeper reason besides the fact that I really have loved him. He was good to me. And breaking up with someone that I loved and treated me well over a lack of sex felt so superficial. I do worry about our future. If I could ever feel safe with him, trust him completely. I think about all the hard life things that could be ahead for us if we were to stay together. And I can't imagine facing those things knowing about his addiction. For example, being postpartum after having kids, me getting cancer in the future and being sick for years, my parents passing away, his parents passing away, us possibly losing a child, all the other horrible things life can throw at people. I understand how addicts can get bitter by putting in the work. Oh, I'm sorry. I understand how addicts can get better by putting in the work, but I still have deep fears of having the strength of recovery tested, as life is not kind. I don't know what to do. We have talked quite a bit about Discovery Day. We have talked quite a bit post Discovery Day, right after she found out about his addiction. And he's lied to me several times during those conversations. This is all so scary. He feels kind of like a sociopath and not the sweet, kind man that I thought I knew. But I'm a smart woman and I have good intuition. I don't know how this could have happened. I don't know how to walk away from all of this. Even if I did decide to stay, I'm insanely busy with career stuff nowadays and would literally not have the amount of time needed to devote to this whole situation. I don't even think I have a proper question for you guys. I just would love to hear your thoughts on the situation. And then she does say, I've been bringing up your podcast, honestly, in almost an excessive way, because it's the only thing that I found to be comforting. I just listened to the most recent podcast and you stated that nobody was submitting questions at the moment. So I thought that was really surprising. So I sent one in. Yeah.
We and we very much appreciate the kind words. And really can appreciate and connect with the difficulty. Again, this is a common dilemma that we hear from partners about on a pretty frequent basis. But again, this is going to be a very different shift today. We are all about the you in terms of talking to you partners, and not about the relationship. A myriad of episodes, as Mark indicated, are already filmed about that from us. So you can access those on the daretoconnectnow.com site. Um, First, let's just take a look at here about the need for what is sometimes referred to, like in the clinical or therapy world, as grounding. Right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, grounding is so important in many avenues of mental health work, but I think especially in the, I guess you could say, the aftermath of betrayal. That might be one of the most critical times where grounding really comes into play, because I think it's so difficult for most partners to do. You know, the oftentimes under very understandable shock and reactivity, and not even to say that toxically that looks like an external process, but just internally, right? The questioning of everything, and what, you know, how could I have been so dumb? How could I have let this happen? I mean, all the dialogue that you heard, that's part of why we read that submission, is because we know many of you partners can empathize with that. Um, it's very real, right? That confusion, that fear, the grief, the shock. I mean, those things all make sense. Committed intimate relationships form in many ways. The longer we're in them, increasingly become integrated into what I guess you could call the bedrock of a person's psyche, right? They become something that we rely on, we build around, we use it as a foundation. My 1 year old daughter, where she's just getting into blocks, right? Having going through what a partner like this goes through is like, you know, we've been working on building the little tower me and my daughter oftentimes build when we're playing, and then doing what she does. It's one of her favorite things now is to build those and then rip them down, right? Pull out one of the big blocks from the bottom. It's very much how relationships feel when this kind of betrayal happens. And as we talk about in many other episodes, the damage from that oftentimes ripples out and like drops on a pond, and it affects many other relationships and many other factors in life. And so this element for the individual partner who has been betrayed to be able to find a place of grounding, to be able to find a new secure base or begin to form that secure base is critical, you know, and it's important that a partner goes through and is one that you're providing that self-validation for you, and surrounding yourself with others who can provide that validation for you while you begin to separate your lived experience from this hidden reality, right? That has shown up, that has now been exposed. And that takes time, kind of like with the block tower of my daughter and I build, right? Once it comes down, you have to kind of go through the blocks and say, gosh, which of these apply? Right? Which of
Well, and
these
it's
resonate?
she expresses what so many betrayed partners express. How could I have been? I thought I had good intuition.
Yeah.
How could I not have known? How could I not see it? It's not that her intuition or really any of you, your intuition is broken or flawed or insufficient. You're operating without full information.
Yeah.
Remember, when you're dealing with addicts living in a secret sexual basement, they engage in integrity abuse, they engage in gaslighting. They go to great lengths to keep all of this completely hidden. She said,
Yes.
like, he even admitted that he was doing it right next to me, and I didn't even know.
But
We are masters of stealth. I was one of the worst.
they even compartmentalize with themselves, ladies,
Yes.
oftentimes. Right? They've gone through that process and even have made it okay to some degree or justified or whatever in their own minds. And so it's perfectly natural that you would be in that place. So being able to look at this not through a lens of how did I not catch this, but rather looking at through a lens of letting him own his stuff.
Hmm.
A partner doesn't No partner should ever be looking for the Caesar style dagger in the back. That's not what we're geared towards in intimate relationships. We're not supposed to be.
Yeah.
And so I mean this is, you know, this is real life. This is true connection and intimacy we're seeking, not some sort of soap opera existence that we're wanting. And here a partner finds themselves in that place. So, in that process of grounding and self exploration, there does need to be whatever you're going to do with the relationship, because again, the relationship we cover in other podcasts. But there does whether you're going to stay, whether you're going to go, and that's a big question mark for many partners in this space. First thing you got to do is immediately you need to start gently focusing shifting the focus, I should say, away from what he's doing or not doing, from what that look. And we know that, like, in the traumatized brain, that's the first go to, right? He hurt me. I need to control the hurting element, and that will make me okay. very understandable, but in things of an intimate nature, in relationships, in the feelings world, not in the action world, this is very much not the case. There needs to be of course, boundaries and things are important as we discuss about in all these other podcasts, but even that boundaries element that we hold with other people, where does that stem from? I need to stop looking at him and what he's doing or not, and I need to be looking more squarely at what I need to be looking at myself. What are my needs? I know that I can acknowledge and I can hold space for the fact that I want to regulate, analyze, break down what he's doing or not, but I need to move towards pivoting and reframing that and looking at my own authenticity. And ladies, authenticity starts by asking what is true for me right now, right? And part of that is, even though we recognize the potential for the future, there does need to be a recognition that even though he could become or do anything, right? The only concrete information I have is what I actually know today, right? What I've actually been given, what I've actually seen, what he's shared versus not. If you're needing more information about that, that's where you may want to consider involving a therapist to do some sort of a formal disclosure when relationships are long and entrenched like this one is. And again, we have other podcasts about that to look at if you want to. But this reframing piece and looking at me right now and in this point in time and being able to say, where is he today as far as I'm able to accurately ascertain? Where am I in terms of my capacities, abilities, et cetera, et cetera? And I need to, as I move forward with with the other things that Mark and I are going to talk about in this podcast, keeping that mindset and trying to center on today. The traumatized brain is always going to want to go towards the future to try to anticipate outcomes and try to just break down the past, right? And those aren't unhealthy activities so long as it doesn't take away from what? Just the now.
Yeah.
Right? What do I need now?
Yeah.
Where are we now?
And part of that, where are we now, is every partner listening to really, and what I'm about to, it's so hard to go to what I'm about to describe because the traumatized brain goes into survival mode. It goes into detective mode, hypervigilance mode. But if you can push the pause button on that to really step back to say, what are my truly authentic wants and needs? Right? What do I need to feel safe, to feel grounded, to feel respected, to feel fulfilled, right? To feel like there's exclusivity, that there's true trust and loyalty being exchanged here. What do I need with regard to all those areas for me? And this is a tough one, Steve, but I think we need to clarify that authentic wants and needs are not demands, they're not
No.
ultimatums, and they're absolutely not selfish. They're self-truth. And too often in this betrayal process, in this trauma process, you kind of there's a part of you that just wants to abandon and cast aside that self-truth. Like, what is true and authentic for me right now in my life? It's easy for that to lose sight of all that, but we would encourage her to come back to that, right? So a big part of this.
Yeah, 100%. Hey, everybody. Mark and Steve here with a holiday offer for you as we enter into the Christmas and the New Year season. You know, we know that recovery can be difficult, and we know as addicts in long-term recovery how hard it is to come into the holidays. You know, you're looking back on the year, and here's another year where we haven't beaten this addiction. Here's another year where we're trapped in betrayal trauma. Here's another year where our coupleship is suffering. Well, right now, from December 15th, 2025 through January 31st of 2026, we are doing our annual holiday promotion. It's the best promotion that we do all year long to try to start 2026 off right. In addition to our 2-week free trial, we're also offering $150 off of your first month subscription here at Dare to Connect. All you need to do is use the code 150OFF D2C, all caps, no spaces when you check out.
And what that means is for both you as you're an addict in recovery and partners in betrayal trauma healing, that's 6 weeks of our Dare to Connect program for less than $150. That's less than the cost of one therapy session just about anywhere. So come and join us. Be sure again at checkout to enter that code 150OFF D2C, all caps. And we'll look forward to seeing you on our D2C program.
We will catch you all in 2026. Well, and this one's even kind of nebulous. As we were talking about this, getting ready for today, we have to be part of the self-examination process and figuring out, where do I go specifically, within the relationship or not, and in my own needs or not, does mean weighing through, looking through, and separating. And sometimes before you can even separate, you have to really examine what is love. What does that look like in terms of what I need to be receiving? But also, what does loving not just myself, but this other person look like right now? One of the things that we talk about and Dare to Connect on a frequent basis, and it applies in so many areas of relationships, but especially here, is if I'm going to love another person, one of the critical components of that is seeing them as they are. Now, oftentimes we refer to that through the lens of recognizing that this other person has uh, awesome potential for growth, that they carry a really important critical identity, right? Whoever they are or aren't, they have a higher power, they have an identity, they have a presence and energy that they contribute to the world and that can contribute to them, right? Recognizing that identity in a person is important from that perspective, but it's also equally important to do it the other way around as well and be able to see them as they really are. I think back to when I was working years ago. One of the pivotal experiences in my career was meeting with an addict and a partner who were going through and sharing. We call them recovery letters with one another, and a partner was sharing some of these letters with her partner in front of an audience of other group members. It was a couples program that we were doing at the time, and how she said what she said is really applicable here. I remember one phrase she used at one point in time with one of the harder letters that she read to him in front of everyone was as follows: I have come to realize and have had to do a lot of work to recognize that you are a true addict, and among the other good things that you are, and that if I do choose to stay with you, then that means certain things for me. And then she continued on to talk about what those were. And I think about that often, and it really ties in well with what we're talking about here. Really loving another person means not just seeing their potential and looking at them through those, we sometimes refer to them as quote unquote love goggles, right? Their potential and he's a good man, and he is all those things. But there are certain elements that are attached to a person who falls under a category of addiction, elements that factor in with regard to the capacity for the truth, the capacity for disclosure, levels of willingness for change, shame, right? And elements that they carry, questions about their own identity, insecurities, unresolved trauma. And those are all not any of themselves deal breakers per se. But if you are going to go forward in a relationship, and that doesn't mean going forward in it per se, but going forward with whatever it means, right? Staying in it, leaving it, changing it, whatever it is, it means going in eyes wide open
Yeah,
and
yeah.
seeing that in a full spectrum, right?
And I love what you're saying, Steve, because we want, and this is often not looked at because partners. I mean, my wife has been this. Our partners are heroic. They seem to have unlimited, vast reserves of love and nurturing and patience and kindness. And I think what too often gets ignored in all that is these individuals, this partner included that wrote into us, you have authentic limits. And right, we think if we have limits that it's weakness or failure or we don't love enough. But this partner and all partners listening, you need to look at what are your authentic limits. You have limited emotional bandwidth. You have limited time and energy. You have limited tolerance for uncertainty and ongoing deception. She does a great job in her submission to us. She kind of knows that if she decides to stay in this relationship, she's going to be in a relationship, like you said, Steve, with an addict.
Mm.
And everything that means for long haul recovery and healing. She's building a career. She has all these other things going on. Is she up for all those other things being added in on top of life's heap? That's something you've got to look at authentic limits,
Yes.
right? They're not moral failures. It's just data. Here's what I can
Yes.
do, and here's what I cannot do.
Well, and we want to be clear here. We're not in any way saying that clearly, both Mark and I are evidence that full change can be made. Some of the men
Absolutely.
that we work with who struggle with addiction are some of the most amazing men that we have ever met, and
Of
we mean
course.
that full heartedly.
Yeah.
They struggle with a really key area and related areas, kind of sub areas with that hold them back in so many ways. And so this is not in any way. We do not ascribe in any way, shape, or form to this idea of, oh, he's an addict, we'll ditch that guy, right? Like, absolutely not, because the guys who go through this process have a tremendous capacity for self-worth, work, empathy, shame, resilience. I mean, all the things that come with that work. But it does come with the heart, and you just need to make sure that you're going in authentically impossible as possible, and that means just seeing it all for what it is, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And being able to embrace them in that way. It's important also to take time to pause in this process. Now, that may sound self-evident to somebody who was just, if you were to just turn this podcast on and you weren't familiar with betrayal trauma, that may be like, well, of course they should pause. Can we just tell you that's one of the hardest things in the world for partners to do? When you're talking about a betrayal trauma scenario, you were talking about the brain's fight, flight, freeze response being on full activation. It's all hands on deck. It's I gotta do something, right? The brain is trying to safeguard you. It's trying to take care of itself. It's trying to keep you safe, and it presents lots of that in lots of ways and options. And can that show up as fight? We talked about fight, flight, freeze. I mentioned that as freezing. Yes, but freezing is not pausing. Freezing is being overwhelmed and paralyzed. What we're talking about here is being able to take thoughtful, mindful steps back from the process and recognize a couple of things, right? Becoming okay, for example, with not knowing all of the answers. For example, one of the key ones that we just were asked this the other day in our Dare to Connect program for addict spouses and couples. You know, what is it? Help us understand, Mark and Steve, the partners were saying, help us understand this addiction thing, why they would do this, why they would hurt us. It doesn't make any sense. And I remember my first response in that session, just off the cuff, was, well, thank God. And the reason why we say that is because there is an insanity element to it, right? Addiction on a core level, there are many pieces to it that you can break down. Some of it you can't. Some of it is difficult to quantify, even when you practice empathy, even when you read the science, even when you look at it. There's an element to that is there is an insanity factor. And that's very hard for some partners. But becoming acclimated with the idea that, you know what, to heal from this and for me to move forward, I don't have to map everything.
Yeah.
I don't have to know everything. A full, detailed pursuit of every granular piece of whatever is not required for me to be okay. Is
Well,
important.
well, and I think part of that pausing, Steve, is to step back and, start to look at things like, it's hard sometimes to differentiate, for example, loving someone and betraying the self to do so.
Yes.
Exploring where has maybe she quote adapted or changed or altered herself, her authentic self, to survive in this relationship, to stay in it. Who has she had to become to stay, and is
Yes.
that who she wants to keep being?
Mm-hmm.
Right, pausing to step back to look at these kinds of things, because this is really not just about making quote the right choice.
No.
It's about choosing the path that allows her to stay congruent with herself, right? Whole, complete, authentic, fulfilled, right? Her life path and his life path, and can they parallel with each other? It's not about abandoning yours to take on his, right? There's this tracks, side by side tracks, where our trains are traveling down those tracks, but they're individual tracks that
Yep.
hopefully can intersect and cooperate and collaborate. Right. There's,
Yeah.
but it comes back to the self, which has been the focus of this podcast is, what about her?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And being very deliberate in your decisions. It's okay to take time, because we know that partners don't just deal with their own inner desire to, I got to do something, right? What are you also hearing from the addict? It's the same thing. The pressure on the other side oftentimes is even greater. Okay, so what are we doing? I mean, I was that guy. So are we divorcing or what are we doing?
Yeah,
Like, right?
yeah,
Just like,
yeah.
I gotta know, I gotta know. No, you don't.
Mhm.
You don't. And even if you want to, I can't right now. Right? This is going to take time, and it's okay for it to take time.
Well, and we would hope for him, and again, we've talked about this in lots of podcasts. We would hope that while this pause is going on, that somehow he figures out that for his authentic path, he goes and gets the help and support and the means to become to for the becoming process into his highest authentic best self.
Yes.
We hope he's doing that on his own during this process, right?
And
While
also
she's doing
examining
this.
his potential and his capacity and his willingness, which we talk about
Absolutely.
often on here, right?
Absolutely.
So there's a whole journey to be said about that. But it's important, ladies, to keep in mind it is always best to make decisions from a place of clarity and authenticity, not from a place of reactivity or pressure or fear.
Mhm.
I remember my wife and I having a disagreement once, one of many, many, many in this process. And I can't remember the subject matter, but I do remember one specific line that was in there. And I'm sure I said many inauthentic things in that disagreement, but I did say one thing that was authentic that I know for sure. As much as I'd want you to stay, I would not want you to stay because of a fear of the unknown of not staying,
Mhm.
if that makes sense, right? In other words, I'd
Mhm.
want you to stay out of clear choice, like you're looking at this situation from all angles and saying, you know what, it's right for me to stay, right? Not I'm going to stay with Jesus with Steve because Jesus loves him, or I'm going to stay because it's the morally right thing, or I don't want to disrupt what I'm going to stay because I've looked at this from every angle I can, and that is what feels true to me to do,
Mhm.
right? So really, really important, really critical. Gosh, ladies, uh, this is one of those follow it up with a Care Bears episode. Uh, discussions. I do want to say as we wrap up, it is important to note many of you have taken advantage of our holiday promotion. As of the date of this recording is this will be posted on January 27th, 2026, which leaves 4 days left to take advantage of the holiday promotion this year. As you can see there are a couple of commercials attached to this that do just briefly advertise that. If you would like to join Dare to Connect, if you like what you hear on the podcast, you will love Dare to Connect. There is not a better time during the entire year to join than now. The promotion code 150 off D2C, all caps, no spaces. That's 150 off D2C. Somebody the other day got confused. They thought it was DTC. No, D2C.
Be the number two.
Um,
Yeah.
yep. Well, at checkout at daretoconnectnow.com, we'll get you $150 off your first month in addition to the 2-week free trial that comes with the program. And we do hope that you'll come and join us. Again, as of the date of this publishing, you could take advantage of that for 4 more days. But we hope that this leaves you with some reassurance. We hope this gives you some encouragement that you can absolutely do this. And we know that for this partner and for many of you, it just at the beginning of this, it feels like you've just been dropped off by a helicopter in front of Mount Everest with no tools and a jacket. And it's like, go to it.
Yeah.
It is doable.
It is
It
doable.
absolutely is.
Yeah. In fact, this is a great time to come join us in D2C because we are doing a deep, deep dive on all things addiction and all things betrayal trauma to help our people get a really, probably the deepest understanding they've ever had of these things, probably in their lives. And we're right in the midst of that. So come on over and experience what that's like.
Absolutely. Ladies, your job right now is not to predict the future. It's to stay honest with yourself in the present.
Absolutely.
It's probably the most important thing that we could close with. We love and appreciate you. Thank you for tuning in today and to all of our other podcast episodes. And as always, if you ever have a question that you would like answered, not in an immediate way, like you could on D2C, and not have live interaction with us like you could on D2C. But if you're looking for a snail mail response, and if you are, no judgment. We do take submissions for those in question form. You can go to daretoconnectnow.com. That same page Mark mentioned at the beginning. Click on the PBSE banner up at the top, and that will take you to all of our podcast episodes, a repository, a search function, but also a contact form where you can go ahead and send questions in to us.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thanks for being here with us once again. We admire, love, and appreciate all of you, and look forward to our next episode in PBSE.
Take care, everybody.
Everything expressed on the PBSE podcast are the opinions of the hosts and the participants and is for informational and educational purposes only. This podcast should not be considered mental health therapy or as a substitute thereof. It is strongly recommended that you seek out the clinical guidance of an individual qualified mental health professional. If you're experiencing thoughts of suicide, self-harm, or a desire to harm others, please dial 911 or go to your nearest emergency room.